Now let's start to finish up our scientist by working on the eyes. So the eyes are going to present an interesting problem for us because if we take a look at the artwork, these eyes are not spherical. They're a little bit squished. And so if we want to be able to actually rotate these eyes around, we need to come up with kind of a solution for that. Otherwise, if we come in here and create kind of these oblong eyes and we start to rotate these around, they're not going to fit within the eye socket. They're going to bulge out when they turn in the different directions. So let's go ahead and start by just building them as spheres, and then we can come up with a solution for kind of squeezing those down. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is start with just a sphere, and I'll build this from the front view, and I'll go ahead and drag this out from the pupil of one of the eyes. Okay, so I'll go ahead and just kind of drag this out. Let's go ahead and just move it forward a little bit. And so there you can see it's kind of penetrating in there. But I've got the kind of the center lined up with the pupil and the iris there. Okay, so now what we want to do is think a little bit, and in thinking of this, I want the inside of the eye, so the white of the eye, the iris, the pupil, and then I want a kind of a clear shell around it to be able to kind of the cornea, to be able to put some reflection on and so forth, and then we have the detail of the eye underneath. So I need to use a couple of different spheres. So I'm going to go ahead and just isolate this, and we're going to use some materials for the first time. Now you can see I added some different colors to the pieces of this guy, and I was just using the object color that we have available up here. I haven't added any materials at this point yet. Okay, but we're going to need to so that we can see through this the outer shell that we're going to be using. All right, so we can either leave this as a high resolution object here, or we can scale it or kind of take the number of segments down a bit, which I think we probably want to go ahead and do. I'm going to take it down to maybe 20 or so. All right, and so before I add any detail in here, I want to duplicate this so this can be our shell, our outer shell. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Scale, hold down Shift, and just scale that out. Make a copy of that. So now, when I need to go into my material editor. And so just in one of these slots, I'm going to create a blend with an opacity of maybe 10. Go ahead and drop this on there, and you can see that outer shell has become transparent, which is what we want. Now we can go ahead and work on the inner shell. So if I go ahead and select that, isolate that, we now need to create the iris and the pupil. So I'm going to go ahead and just convert this to an editable poly. Get a polygon selection here. I'll go ahead and select kind of all the way around here. Okay, and I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. Okay, so that it kind of matches with the size of the iris there. So let's say right about there. Let's now do an inset. Okay, and we'll inset this to the size of the pupil. So right about there. Say OK to that. Let's now push this into the eye. So we'll go ahead and push this in just a little. Okay, get a little indentation there. All right, and I also want to take this and scale it down so that it flattens out. All right. And now, oftentimes, so I don't have to worry about this transition, I'll go ahead and detach this pupil. If you want to do that, you can go to Edit Geometry, detach that. Okay, and then what we can do is take this piece, and let's go ahead and grab this, and let's center the pivot, and go ahead and move this back behind, and I'll scale it up a little bit, and I'll just add a black to that pupil. All right, and so now if we're going to be smoothing this, we probably want to add a little bit of resolution here along the edge of this iris. So I could take the edge right in here, select the loop, and just chamfer that. So go to Edit Edges, and just give it a kind of a small amount, a couple segments, and you get something like that. Okay. If you want to add color to this, if you want to add kind of a simple color, we could create here kind of maybe a green. Just go into the diffuse and get kind of a dark green, something like that. And then you could go ahead and select your polygons here, kind of all the way around. And then you could turn these, give those your green color. Just grow that, drop it on there. And probably want to add your white for the sclera. And go ahead and drop that on first, and then drop your green on to your selection. Okay? And so then that will give you sort of the base for your eye. Now, thinking ahead, I know we're going to be kind of smushing this down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and take this selection here and just kind of move it out a little bit. Okay? Let me go ahead and grow that until we get that whole thing. And just kind of grow this out a little bit. Alright, so let's go ahead and exit isolate mode. And then what we'll have is our eye and our outer shell. Okay? And so we can either attach this, or we can go ahead and grab both of these and we can group it together if we want to do that. Let's go ahead and isolate these so you can kind of see what we've got here. Alright? And what I'm going to do is just attach. I want to attach all of these together. And I want to make sure we get our pupil as well. So you can see it's located in there. So I'll go to select, and let's just make sure that we grab all of these pieces. Okay, so we'll grab that, grab both of those, and then let's grab the pupil if we can here. If we can get in there. Kind of deselect that. And then I'm going to just grab this from the inside out, I think. There we go. And we isolate that. And then we can go ahead and attach any of these pieces that we want to, so that everything is kind of works well. I'm going to grab the inside, go to Edit Geometry, and we'll start to attach the different pieces. I'll match material IDs, that's fine. And then attach that. And let's go ahead and now, since we've attached that, we're going to have to come in and add a material to that. So we'll just create a black and add that in. Go ahead and add that to our pupil. Alright, so we can go ahead and then smooth that out if we wanted to do that. And that's what we come up with. So now we need to come up with some sort of a solution to rotate this around inside the eye socket. So we'll go ahead and in the next lesson tackle that using a space warp. Alright, so we'll go ahead and do that in the next lesson.